So when this nightmare that has taken over our government is over, we need to ensure that this never happens again. For people with disabilities and other minorities, we need to remove all the discrimination and guarantee our civil rights. At least that's part of what we need to do. So I'm Annette Bourbonniere from Nothing Without Us, Stories and Discussions of Meaningful Inclusion. And I am a 70-ish-year-old woman with dark-rimmed eyeglasses. I'm wearing a dark red sweater and I'm sitting in a power wheelchair. So please take the time to free subscribe if you've not already done so. Make some comments, give me a like, and share this episode. I do read all the comments, by the way. So if you recall our recent discussion with Keith Jones, we discussed the power that we have. So we know that people with disabilities comprise approximately 25% of the US population. That's a big chunk. The Latino population has almost 20% of the population. The Black population's approximately 15%, and Native Americans approximately 1.5%. So even with the overlap of intersectionality, we represent a lot of people. So let's not forget the LGBTQ community or our families and friends who would also be supporting our issues, right? Even accounting for intersectionality, we have now become the majority. Our group is much larger than the white, cisgendered, heterosexual, able-bodied male that lives in this country. So let's remember that, okay? So there are more of us than there are of them. Our numbers are greater than those of all the billionaires and Congress combined. Our contributions are greater as well. I mean, just our size and the things that we do that contribute to this country, we contribute more than the billionaires or our Congress people. And don't forget, Congress, president, such as he is, and his cabinet all work for us. So let's harness that power and do what needs to be done. Are you ready? So don't worry, I'm not suggesting some violent uprising. I don't do that. We can do better than that, a lot better. We need to stay informed, keep pressure on our congressional representatives and senators, and vote. While we're doing all of that, we need to put together a real agenda that will help the American people thrive, and that'll tear down the barriers that we experience. It'll make sure that the discrimination that currently powers those in DC and elsewhere becomes powerless. Yes, it is time to let's get rid of all the isms that really, I think, fed into this whole mess that we're in right now. So now that does sound like a lot, but it's not really. With focus on our goals, we can make that happen. So we've got 3 steps, right? So step 1, pressure on Congress and the Senate. Identify who your representatives is and who your senators are. Call, write, email them with your agenda at least once a week. Tell them what you expect from them. You can call or write them more often if there are new crises to address. We really want them addressing the mess that we've got. They have immediate power right there. We have power over whether or not they stay in the job, but they have power right now. And it's time for them to find their spines and exercise that power. So we need to remind them that we are the employers, the voters, and we will hire and elect someone who will do the job. So talk about their voting rights on disability issues, on race and gender issues. Talk about equality. Tell them it's more important for them to listen to us than to get paid by billionaires. They might feel good for a little while, but they're not going to stay in office. We need to make that clear. We will not keep them in office. So get out and vote. That's step 2. Vote for someone who will understand that they work for us, not the other way around. Make sure you register in plenty of time. August 9th, 2026 is the last day to register in Rhode Island if you want to vote in a primary. Make sure you vote on election day, or vote by mail, or vote electronically. Choose only one, of course. Don't try all 3. We're not playing that game. We're trying to do this right. So complete your ballot. Make sure everything you need is there, and cast that vote. That is our superpower, that we can cast that vote. Now, step 3, but maybe it should be step 1, because everything is all intertwined. These steps are not clearly do one this week and do one next week. So have an agenda. Be clear about what we expect from those we elect. So some of the things that we can include, and I'll flesh these out in episodes over the next few weeks. But let's look at some of these that we can include. Integrity. Do we want our public officials to have integrity? That'll be new for a while, right? Taxes, healthcare, education, equity, enforcement of civil rights. There are a lot more, but this should get us started. If we could cover all of these in the next election, we'll be really well on our way to putting things back where they belong. So let's start with integrity. I'll work on that one today, and we'll do the others in the near future. So when our government commits crimes, either on the American people or on other countries, it commits those crimes in our names. If we are silent, we're complicit and we're guilty. So we need to change that. We need to keep our government from committing crimes. No more killing people, leaving them in the cold if they're blind. I mean, some of the things are just so horrific. We should have really grown past this level in our civilization, believe me. So, we have this Constitution that sets a standard that we should expect our government to uphold. It's the duty of the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution, judicially review the laws, and say, yep, this one's constitutional, this one's not. They declare this, which laws are and executive actions are constitutional or unconstitutional, and ensure that federal and state laws do not violate our fundamental rights. This is what they're supposed to be doing. This is their job. So our current Supreme Court has not really set the gold standard in this area. We need to set standards for the court. So right now, members of the court are appointed for life. We need to establish a process whereby they either have limits on their terms, so they're not there for life, or that there is balance built into their appointments so that they're more evenly divided by ideology. Now, right now we have essentially a 6-3 division, which is a pretty big gap. We have twice as many people on one side as another. So we should have it more like 5-4. If we needed more people to keep that balance up, as long as it's always an odd number. So 6-5 or 7-6, we want to make sure that their decisions are close. I think that's an important thing to do. These members of the court should also have and abide by a strict code of ethics that's open to the public. We should know the standards of this code. We should know we should have reports on whether or not these codes are violated, by whom, and what the result has been. Violations of this code, which should include a strict limit on gifts, should be cause for impeachment. Again, they work for us. We can fire them. We need to do it right. We need to do it the right way, but not just because we don't agree with them, but when we feel that their receipt of gifts is reflected in their decisions. And I think this is what we're seeing happen, and we want to make that change. Now, the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment needs to be clarified through congressional action and then applied across the board. There was no good reason for it to not have been applied before the 2024 election, but we need to make it crystal clear that we, the American people, or at least those of us who make up all the minorities, insist on it from this point forward. If Congress balks at making it law, we need to let every balking member know they will be fired. So in addition to the conditions set already in the 14th Amendment, which is the insurrection clause of it, we need to have a code of ethics for all candidates for Congress as well. And yes, the president as well. We should not be electing frauds, felons, or pedophiles in any part of government. They should not be allowed to run. Maybe someday we should make an exception for youthful indiscretions with long history of non-criminal behavior, but it really needs to be in there that we're not electing people that have committed these crimes and, right after they've committed them, or, even they need a long period between the crime and running, at least, maybe not be allowed to run at all. It is critical that this not be politicized. We can't say that we're going to do it because the Republicans are in charge, or they're the majority, or that the Democrats are the majority. It should apply to all federal and state officers. And that's an absolute. So let's start there. Okay, so tell me in the comments what you think of this, and then send me your ideas, either on what needs to be done as far as integrity goes, or what are your ideas about how we can fix taxes to make it work better for our country. Okay, so that episode is going to be coming up. So send me your comments. Put it in the comments what you think would be the best thing to do. In the meantime, let's let everybody know who's really in charge. We consider the upcoming election an employee review or evaluation, as well as part of the interview process to hire new employees. So if we keep it in mind that way, it will give us the right perspective in how we make this work. This year is the year for the midterm elections. For Rhode Island, that means it's the year of all of our state legislators and senators, and the governor, secretary of state, treasurer, attorney general are all elected as well. If we want change, we need to inform all of them that they work for us. They are our employees. We need to tell them who we are and what we need to make life fair for us. We need elected officials who will listen to us, and we need to tell them what will work and that what will work for us will benefit the state as well. So let's make sure everyone who is running in the midterm and state elections knows something about disability, about the problems we face, about policies that need to be reinforced or changed. So in the spirit of the late Alice Wong and her associates, Greg Barrington and Andrew Polrang, let's keep Crip the Vote alive. Use that hashtag on social media to make our voices heard. So it is hashtag Crip the Vote. Okay. I will run a Crypt the Vote sub-series on this podcast for everyone running in Rhode Island and maybe Massachusetts if people request them, to come and talk about disability issues and policies. This includes those running for election or re-election in Congress, Senate, governor, legislature, local races, all of the ones that are running. So during the 2024 election, I had a pretty decent response to requesting participation from office holders and candidates. I hope for the same or better in 2026. I was really new then. So now, as listeners to Nothing Without Us, you can participate in this. Let me know, who do you want to hear from? What do you want them to know? What questions do you want answered? And you can let me know if you want to join me in that interview and information session. We can make it happen remotely or in person if they're meeting in person. So Nothing Without Us should be a place for many voices to be heard. While I think I'm pretty in touch with all the disability issues, I'm sure some of you will think of things that I do not. And if this is to be a lively community, then you need to have a seat at this table. So it's through empowering ourselves that we will be able to protect our rights. So let's do it. So tell me in the comments who you want to hear from, what questions you want asked or issues discussed. And if you want to join in this interview, let's make all of our voices heard. So I thank you for listening. I'm Annette from Nothing Without Us. Please free subscribe to this podcast. You will have access to all the regular and important episodes, and you can also make comments, and it helps me if you give me some likes. Yeah, I do like that. And I do read them all. And share these podcasts with your friends. Now, basic subscriptions are free. There are benefits to paid memberships, including early access to some postings, special postings only available to paid members, and a monthly live episode to those on the activist tier. My goal is to make this a lively community where voices will be heard. And I do have an announcement to make today. I am excited. I was thinking of waiting another week to make this announcement, but we're going to make it today. So the first live episode will be this month. We will be live at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, March 17, 2026. We will be offering 3 of these episodes free of charge for all subscribers, even free subscribers. After that, access will be available to those either on the activist tier and to people who purchase a ticket. But check out the live episodes for free in March, April, and May. Join in the conversation. Let's hear what you have to say or what you think about what we're talking about. Just free subscribe if you haven't already. You'll be able to come in, all right? So now you can purchase memberships when you are ready. You can purchase them on an annual basis rather than just on a monthly basis. And you can gift a membership to someone else. So tell your friends they can find this podcast at patreon.com/nothingwithoutus, on YouTube, Spotify. You can find me on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. That's a lot, right? But until the next Nothing Without Us, I'm Annette.